Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. In this episode, I sit down with legendary coach Dan John. He is synonymous with wisdom in fitness and coaching, but we have been doing a deep dive on the book, The Sword and the Stone, for years now. However, today we kind of thematically centered around the word integrity. Dan says integrity isn't just a moral principle, it's about wholeness. And in life, it means being the same person in every situation and doing what's right even when it's hard. So you don't have to have read The Sword and the Stone in order to enjoy this episode, but I highly recommend it. We actually veer off subject a little bit. Surprise, surprise. It was just awesome to catch up with him. He is always such a treasure trove of wisdom and wonder and just an amazing human being. And I am so honored to have these conversations. So if you enjoy this conversation as much as I did, I would really love it if you would rate my podcast. If you really want to take one extra step to show your love, you can donate to my Patreon at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to show your support and help continue the work that I'm doing here. For comments or suggestions, reach out on social media at SifuMimiChan. Now on with the show. Hello, Dan. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while, it feels like, yeah.
It does. I feel like it's been about the quarter, but like our schedule may have been a little bit askew or something. Yeah. So
nothing bad. Just had a weirdly busy year. Had a new granddaughter born. I got a new one.
Congrats.
And, in April, we had Elowen in August, and we'll have Daisy in April, March. We'll see. Baby show up when they show up. So
well, Daisy is appropriate for the spring. So that sounds lovely.
That's true. Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's so good to see you. I really missed you.
Said my ears were burning for some reason.
Your ears, I think, might have been ringing today because Oscar and I were recording a podcast, and basically sometimes when we don't have quite the wisdom we need, we just steal from you or some of the other people we know, and you came up very, very explicitly because we actually were talking a lot about integrity. And ironically, he also did a bit of an email to like our students, and that came up as well, where he also quoted you again. But he actually was talking about a speech you did 11 years ago, where he first saw you speak for the first time. I want to say it was one of those coach marketing something platform, but it was the first time he saw you in person.
NPE, maybe?
Yeah, that probably sounds right. And he said, everyone was in tears and you were in tears. And he was like, trying not to be in tears. He doesn't really cry. He's not wired that way. But he said, I remember it very clearly as well, because he called me as soon as there was a break. And he was like, I am so inspired. Obviously, I've been a huge fan of Coach Dan John forever and ever, read his books, etc. But like when you spoke, you just really fired something, because it just really aligns so much with us as traditional Chinese Kung Fu practitioners, like having integrity and gratitude for where you come from and that tradition of like being thankful for your mentors. And he said that was the part that really drove home for everyone there, but also you. And so I kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit about it, because it started with knowing who you are and that theme. And we were talking about it.
I pulled my journal out from 1971.
Okay.
And I talked about my long journey. And the other thing that's funny about that weekend is one of the other speakers there was this guy here, Rocky Blyer.
Okay.
And Rocky and I, he was in 4 Super Bowls, 4 championships. But he also got his foot blown off in Vietnam, and of course, his family was all Vietnam War. But the thing, we're all standing in line. And you can just tell he's like, he's saying, and I go, "Can you tell me about Father Judge?" And he goes, "You sit over there. Let's go to lunch together." That was the strength coach in college at Notre Dame. And Father Judge might be the person who either invented the bench press or bought the bench bench press to America. And he was this colorful character with a terrible, I guess he really could get angry easy. But I remember that weekend so well because of the chance for me to meet one of my heroes.
Oh, okay.
And that was one of those great, when I was talking, you're talking about mentors and mentors and mentors. And
Yes.
here I am sitting down the same weekend with someone who changed my life. So it was kind of fun. Yeah.
Yes, that's incredible that it ended up being that same weekend. But yeah, it was, it really is one of the things that we keep revisiting. But as you know, as a mentor, teacher, coach, et cetera, that you kind of have to repeat yourself many times in order to maybe like get through to the students. And so we find ourselves talking a lot about it because this theme keeps coming up of honoring our, like for us at the Kung Fu School, we light incense every class to honor our ancestors at the beginning. And then at the end, we repeat our kind of like what our philosophy is of kindness and hard work and respect. And there's like a kind of a tradition to it, but essentially it's about reminding us that we should have integrity, but thanking and being grateful to those who came before us and who continue to teach us, of course. But yeah, and you always put things so well because of course you started to break down the word mentor and where it comes from, and you just you string together all of the themes so beautifully and eloquently. So yeah, Oscar was kind of reading what he remembered, but he literally had, kind of a notebook and was just writing down notes. So this is like from Dan John, but from notes that he wrote on the paper while he was trying to capture your words. So I thought I'd pick your brain a little about to see what you remembered from that weekend, but also because I know you do talk a lot about those themes and how important it is. And I feel like it's a good thing for us to remind ourselves as we start this year of remembering where we came from and who's helped us along the way. And
Constantly should, I'll go online and, I've got my detractors online. And it's always funny because I can always, you find out their whole story and very often it's not very good. And one of the things you figure out quickly, if you have any integrity, I want to get back to that word again in just a moment, is that you realize that all of us are standing on the shoulders of others. All of us are. And I'm very proud about what I've done in the field of strength and conditioning, strength training. I like what I've done. I think I've had a good impact. I mean, lots of people love my crazy workouts and my, but yeah, I'm standing on the show. I mean, I'm Dick Notmeyer and Ralph Mon and my mom and dad and my brothers. I mean, you can't ignore any of them. Speaking of my mother, she's the one who defined integrity for me when I was a child.
okay.
And she said, it's the ability to be the same person in every situation. And I saw a Reddit thread the other day, which I kind of thought was funny because, people don't know I'm on Reddit until they figure it out. Then it's funny. And someone said that they sent me a video of their technique, and I got right back to them with some ideas. Person sent the thing back, and I said, wait, you live in Utah. Why don't you come work out with me? It'd be a lot easier for me to just. And the guy was so amazed that out of nowhere I don't know who people think I am. I do know that some online personalities in real life can we gossip? Can we just gossip?
Yes, please.
One of the things you'll find if you go to conferences and meet some of these people is that the person that you hear online and they're the one dropping the F-bombs and pointing at the camera and no one knows as much as I do. When you meet in real life, the first thing you want to do is say, this can be rude, but they're often not very impressive for what they say. They're not very impressive physically, or they're just they market things well, but they don't. They're behind it's Oz. There's that curtain. You pull that curtain, and it's like, what are you doing there? Don't look at the curtain. Well, I'm looking at you. So integrity, and I strive very hard to be the same person in every situation. Now, it doesn't mean I don't screw up. I constantly, I think we all do. I've had some bad moments, and I continue to seem to have them. But thank you, and it means a lot that you remember that because that was a fact. I got a picture the other day. Somebody sent it to me, and I just talked to Steph today. but I'm in a picture with Mike Krifka. He's a guy in DC. He's a kettlebell instructor, master kettlebell instructor. Mike Krifka, myself, Bethany Geary, and Steph Crockett, and then some young guy I don't recognize, but I know him, and I can't figure out who it is. But it was from the same conference. And
Okay.
it was just, so it's funny you mentioned that because I talked to Steph literally today. This is no exaggeration. You can call.
Wow.
And I reached right back, and there's
Yep, there it is.
oops, there it is. And it's just funny how sometimes these things will happen. And it's obviously I think there's I wouldn't want to say this is like totally like the universe speaking to us or anything, but it is always a good reminder. You never know when you're going to impact anybody. And that is my students. I was at the school I taught at for a long time. Before COVID, Tiffany and I used to pay for the homecoming dinner. It was very expensive, but it made everyone, And I had a student come up one time and she said, I always wanted to thank you. And I go, because of my brilliant lectures and my great insight. I guess one day her boyfriend had broken up and she walked in the classroom and I walked over and I said, "Are you okay?" And she went, and I said, "Hey, listen, you don't need to be here. I'll take care of it. I'll get you all the lecture stuff. You're good. You go take care of yourself. And when you get a chance later in the day, you come visit me and we'll sort out to keep you up." And she said that of all her moments in high school and college, and that was the kindest anyone had ever been to. And I thought to myself, that's not much. That wasn't much of a bar, but
Yeah.
it completely changed her. Now, I'm the hero of this story, folks. I got stories where I'm the villain, so we'll do those later. But you never know. You just don't ever know. And it gets us back to me inviting people to train with me or, go out to lunch with me, go have drinks after a workshop, or it's the smallest things,
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, that was one of our favorite stories. Mike Boyle was telling me that, he had either it was a training workshop or he had some sort of event that afterwards, maybe it was social, and you had brought someone there and he thought, oh, this is like someone that you know really well. And it was like someone you randomly had met that day, and you invited him to come along and join because that is who you are. You're just so open and
You're referring to Dr. Taylor Lewis, who specializes now in a disease that cystic fibrosis, and he is a real pioneer in the area of using weightlifting to help people with this terrible genetic disease called cystic fibrosis. Small world, hate to paint it, part two. One of my former students and he have become good friends because she has the condition. And they had that moment where he said, well, Dan John, my high school teacher? Yeah, same guy. And that's Dr. Taylor Lewis now from Stanford University. And that's what I love about what I do. Because you're looking at a girl who graduated from high school in 1996, and the story with Mike is probably 2008, 9, 10, somewhere in there. And it's funny. You say one more Taylor story. Right around the corner there, I have a room, and I have his baseball jersey when he was the physical therapist for a team, a baseball team, and they got injured towards the end of the season. So he started pitching for him, and he won that league as a pitcher at about age 34. So that I have his jersey that he sent me from that game, and it just. Isn't this fun? I know, gentle listeners, you're all probably going, oh my God, will they ever get to any point?
Yeah, no, this is like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, where it's like the degrees of Dan John, like how many people are connected to you in so many different ways.
But, but this is what I love about life,
Yeah.
I was just to do. I was doing a favor for somebody, and I pulled out my my journal from 5 years ago when I was going through the dark time of my life. And I think we've mentioned before,
Yes,
and
of
that
course, of course.
Tiffany died and all that, and and all that. But you know, we all have those ups and downs, and what keeps us going is that the communities we're in, and and I'm so happy to have my mentors, my friends, my family, my community members, and all my different communities. In just a few hours, I'll be. Well, actually, I am a little tight on time, but don't worry. Every Thursday night, I go to the senior center and I dance. And my buddy
Ooh,
Merrill is there. He's 91, and he was an eyewitness to the first atomic bomb blast.
wow.
He was taking care of the sheep, and all of a sudden, this terrible, weird light hit, and half an hour or so later, this incredible noise hit across the valley. And then he flew 88 fighter missions over North Vietnam.
Wow.
So, when you're sitting around with a guy like Merrill and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I had a bad day. He watched his best friend die in a crash landing. So you need, and then a couple hours ago, I was with my 18, 19, and 20-year-old athletes, my college athletes. And so that's what keeps you. My athletes keep me young. Merrill keeps me grounded, and that's what we keep going. And then we keep on moving on, and that's why it's such a blessing to have like a dojo or a gym or something like that, where you have then 7-year-olds run around playing touch you last, and the 80-year-old practicing rolling because that's going to save their life. So yeah, it's all good.
100%. And one of the things we talked about today too is because you mentioned not just the community, but the people that you surround yourself, right, are essentially who impact you and who you impact, and vice versa. So I think it's all incredible. What kind of dancing, Dan?
Oh, a local guy named Tony Summerhays. If you're ever driving down the I-15, you'll see Summerhays music there, and Tony plays every instrument. And uh, I have a girlfriend now, and our song is Harvest Moon because of Tony, and he plays. Oh gosh, a lot of that Western line dance stuff. And I always sit down, but he plays. He'll play rock and roll. It's just a real. I got to tell you, probably music from literally every decade, and it's great. I would say, if you get a chance, gentle listeners, if you ever get a chance to go to the Murray Senior Center and spend an hour there, you'll figure out. My friend Maureen down there, she does such a wonderful job. But there's something magical about the Murray Senior Center. I mean, they have strength classes, they have flexibility classes, they have all. I mean, obviously the stuff you expect, ceramics and painting and stuff. But the physical side of that place stuns me. And thanks for reminding me, because I like to go. They have a machine I like to use there, and I got to make sure I start using it again a little bit more.
Of course, you would find a way to bring in a little bit of training. I love that that you're dancing. I love that visual, by the way. That just makes me super happy. I love dancing, so that's awesome. And I love the senior center thing, because I'm one of those humans who, I don't know, I guess people are like, oh, you have such an old soul, because I have perpetually, since my 20s, been the one to go on all the senior citizen cruises with my mom and my dad and like their friends. And so I'm always with like the 70 and 80-year-olds, and they're like, how come you don't go on the young people cruise? I'm like, oh, they're boring. I like to hear the stories, because I feel like when you've lived so much life, it's just, there's so much to learn, and everyone's just fascinating. And I'm like a huge fan of the elderly population. So
Officially as an athlete, I'm 68 now, and I look over my career, and I've always tended to gravitate to people who think that it's well, I mean, I'm doing a workshop down in Las Vegas, and they asked me to do the promo, and I said, what the key to this workshop is from, and I always say, the poet. I get knocked down, but I get up again, and you're never going to keep me down, the poet Chumbawamba. And everyone always laughs when I say that, but I'm like, it's right out of Rocky. I mean, life, it's going to knock you down, but you got to get back up. And it's real hard. I mean, when I'm around my 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old athletes, you know, they sometimes struggle with failure because very often this high school athlete has always been the biggest, fastest, strongest, most technical, most lucky athlete. And then you jump up to the next level, collegiate, university, and I often use a story about how great I was. I was this great California discus thrower. All these awards, all these plaques and stuff. And I go to my first meet, Utah State meet, and I'm in ninth place, and I have to throw my lifetime best to make the finals to get 3 more throws. And I got to tell you, I put my hat in my hand after that, and I just shut up from that on. Can I bore you with one more real quick story?
You never bore me.
I told this to my thrower the other day. He goes, and she's throwing well. And I said, I just got to say something to you. And she goes, what? She goes, when I was at Utah State, I'm making throw after throw after throw, and they're all big throws. They're international level, 180 throws, 190 throws. And Coach Mon is harping on me about my technical problems. And finally I say, Coach, these are pretty good throws. I wish I had glasses around here. And he pulled off his glasses and he kind of wiped his eyes and he goes, it's just after watching my own throwers throw 230 out of this ring, it's just so hard to watch you throw 180.
Burn.
And I thought to myself, well, let's get back to work. That's when I learned to shut up and get the work done. I don't know if I've ever, he said it so kindly that it destroyed me. If he'd have just said, shut the F up, I know what I'm talking about, it would have been a different story, but that was brilliant. That was brilliant. So
the delivery, right? The delivery makes all the difference too.
The glasses was the key.
The glasses,
Like he was in pain watching me throw.
Right.
If you go up to Utah State or Utah, any of these schools now, and you throw the throws I was making, I'd be like, whoa, you're so good. But not at the Utah State ring, not at that time. Yeah.
Do you feel, because you've taught through so many generations now and you continue to speak to a variant of generations, do you feel feedback is received as a gift as it should be, or has that changed, or is it just dependent on the individual? Is it a generational thing, or?
I don't, and this is something a couple of years back, my friend Chris Long said to me, I was complaining about things, and he goes, the thing is the kids haven't changed, Danny, you've changed. And I'm like, and it kind of bothered me, and I thought about it, I go, wait a sec, no, the kids haven't changed, I haven't changed, the parents changed. And I might have told this story before. I was a sophomore at Skyline College. I was a junior college transfer, okay? And I go to practice one day, and Coach Juan Coach Lahati walks over to me and goes, Danny, usually when someone's recruiting one of my athletes, they talk to me first. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, Coach. He goes, at every meet, after the meet, this guy in a suit walks up and he starts talking to you. What school is he from? And I go, Coach, I don't know who you're talking about. And then he goes, wait, he's kind of a shorter guy, must have been a runner. I go, Coach, that's my dad. Oh. So let's review the situation real quick. I'm his All-American thrower. I'm his state champion. I'm the captain of his state champion team. I'm his captain state champion team on a state championship team. And I'm going to get the academic athlete award for the university, their highest honor. Okay, all those, so state champ, school record holder, we can just stay here all. I was a sophomore, second year, JC. Next track meet, coach sees my mom and dad sit in the stands, and he runs up and he sits down for half an hour and talks with them. My mom and dad never bother to coach. When I'm coaching and I got a kid who's on, is going to take 15th place out of 16 at a local track meet because, the parents are in my grill about them getting a scholarship to, the biggest track pro, the biggest. Will they go get a scholarship to Harvard? No. Well, no, they won't. And I think that was a difference. In my parents' generation, you never talked to a coach. You never bothered to coach. Mm-hmm. When I was a parent, I did my best to avoid it, but sadly, I was my daughter's head track coach. So which was great. It's some of my best memories of my life with my daughters. But now the parents are a little bit, and I'm sure even at the dojo or whatever what you call your
the temple.
The temple. Okay, you'll probably find a lot more parent instead of just you'll probably see a lot more of that, and it's fine. Except my parents expected me to fight my own battles and deal with and to if I wasn't starting. It was my fault because I didn't work hard enough, practice hard enough, and those kinds of things. And by the way, that's all true, especially the sports I've always been in, and even in American football. When a parent says, "Why isn't Billy throwing farther?" It's like because he doesn't practice hard enough, doesn't throw on the weekends. Well, what should I do? Well, shouldn't do anything. Billy out there and throw. That's not
exactly.
You're
not. You're not a type. What is it? Oh my gosh, I'm going to forget it. But you haven't earned the right to be frustrated.
Don't you love that phrase?
I stole it from you. So yes.
I love it. You're not good enough to be frustrated.
You're not good enough to be frustrated. Yes, that's what it is.
I got on one of my throwers just last week. I did the arm fold.
Oh, nice.
I did the lean back. I go, in my 41st year of throwing, when I had a left hip that was basically oatmeal on oatmeal, I had a bad day. A really bad day. And I was really, you're not good enough to be frustrated. You haven't put the work in, the effort. And I just went on this thing. And then I lightened it up because I didn't want the kid to feel horrible. But yeah, 41 years and you have a bad day, 15,000 throws a year. Yeah, it's okay to be frustrated. Freshman in college, maybe not so much,
I love that. It is, it just says it all perfectly, especially for us and what we do. But you're right about the parents. We actually have a pretty big rule because there's such a tradition attached. We can kind of get away with parents aren't allowed to be there during classes. They're not allowed to interfere. So they don't get to actually observe class and just be there on the sidelines and side coaching or anything. We have specific days. We call them parent days where they come in so they can see progress. But it's super disrespectful to kind of interfere. And I've seen it at other events where, parents are side coaching and things, but also it just shows such a lack of trust in the coach or teacher or Sifu or mentor, however. It's such a lack of trust to not allow the process to be unfold and allow the student to be the student and the teacher to be the teacher or the coach and the athlete, right? It's just a lack of trust.
Sifu is a beautiful name. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to be tight on time. So let's
jump in a little bit. Yeah. Yes, because I'm sure we'll get sidetracked anyway. But we have been on this journey now for a few years, and it's super exciting because right now I'm opening it and it looks like we are more than halfway through, or at least about halfway through. So that's exciting. But we spent a lot of time with the Sword in the Stone and our journey with Ward and Merlin and Kay, and we were in Robin Wood for a while, and we're still there technically, but this is the part where, of course, they're going on the next part of the journey where Morgan Le Fay and then the Griffin, and I'm going to get the bad grade here. I take full accountability, did not prioritize rereading really well, but I have your notes, and I just remember thinking about the Morgan Le Fay stuff and just being really grossed out by all the descriptors in it.
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to just share with our listeners kind of a cool thing. So on we both have the same book on page 145.
There.
Where the plate is. Would you show that plate to the audience for us?
Yes.
So I'm very proud of what I'm about to do here. So that's that's the in the book that she's showing. The artist is Dennis Nolan. Now I've been trying to reach out to him again because so a couple of years ago I was able to find him, and this is the original black and white drawing
I
of
love that.
that you just saw. And I'm really happy that I got it framed nicely. And by the way, I think the frame is gorgeous.
Yeah, that is gorgeous. There's like texture and
And if you don't mind, uh, my girlfriend Erica's daughter is a nice little artist. And for a present, she gave, I don't know how well this will come in,
oh, I see it. The painting. Is it
but and
painting or
yeah, it's a painting. And then she
oh.
added a little bit around to it with all the heraldry.
Oh
And so
yeah.
that's a new addition to my house. And then a while ago, I got that. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, all the way up. Okay. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
That's
Oh, the Disney.
that's a Disney one. And I also bought the new. It just came out about a week or two ago. Uh, ooh, is it still upstairs? Oh no, here it is. This I just bought. It's not very good because it's Disney, but it, it's the graphic novel.
Oh, I love it. I'll still want to get it. I have to
Yeah,
say though, my first introduction as a child was the Disney film. And just I
yeah.
mean it all melts together because I also watched a lot of classics like Excalibur and things like that. My mom was
Well,
really good on
Excalibur.
exposing me to classic films and things. So I don't know what came first, but the Sword in the Stone Disney one is very in my head when I went to do a lot of rereads because it's so visual.
My favorite. I mean, so if you don't mind, we're not going to get through very much today. So
That's
don't.
okay.
For those of you listening, John Boorman did this movie called Excalibur back in the late 70s, I'm pretty sure. It's probably Liam Neeson's first movie.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
He's in there. If you like John Stewart, for those of you who are like me, Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek, he's in there. This is the introduction most people had to the Carl Orff's Carmina Burana, and the song they use in the show is called "O Fortuna," which is actually the medieval monks were writing about this idea called it's the wheel of life, and the idea is if you live on the ups and downs, you're going to lose your mind. But if you can get yourself in the hub, because fortune rises and falls, oh
Okay.
fortune,
Oh,
and you read
oh,
in the wheel.
oh.
You ever heard of the phrase "the wheel of fortune"? Vanna White and all that.
Yes.
But if you can get yourself to stay in the hub and stay bound and not, and it's really interesting because it's one of the most. It's sometimes I think, and I'll defend Western civilization. I think I'm the last person to do it. Because a lot of people say, oh, you got to stay in the center. We have that in Western Civ. Just because we threw it out and ignored it doesn't mean we don't have it. But so that was one of the great keys of medieval. Bad things happen, good things happen. And in every tradition, we acknowledge that. But if you can just stop judging everything as good or bad instantly, I think you're a lot happier character in life. But Excalibur, there's a few lines in Excalibur where he says, "To some a dream, to others a nightmare," and his name is Nigel. Oh, Helen Mirren, she was that young hottie in there.
Oh, see, it's all. I've got to revisit that film. It's
I
been a
tell you what's
minute.
funny is I think her next movie is Caligula.
Oh, okay.
Which, by the way, if you buy it in this new version they brought out, it's still horrible, but it's less horrible. So yeah,
Okay. Well, we always strive for less horrible. I mean, we've got to work with what we got sometimes.
I honestly think if Borman would have done the Sword and the Stone, I think I'd have been a lot happier. O.B. Harbison wrote this great article years ago on the Sword and the Stone by Disney, and he called it "The Sword and the Stone and the Disney Chocolate Eclair Machine." And his point was they took the heart and soul out because Merlin is not an idiot in
Right.
the He's not a, he doesn't, he forgets things, but he forgets things for a good reason. And the other thing he talked about is that that massive squirrel scene is not in the book, not
Oh,
needed.
right.
Personally, I wish they would have done something like, if they'd have used that Fantasia scene where it's basically, because in the books that we have, Snake is going to have some dreams coming up.
Right, right, right.
One of the dreams is basically creation. Now it's funny because if you go on Amazon, this woman critiques it and goes, "I like the book," and then it gets all about evolution, and I'm like, "Oh, geez, that's where you're going to put the line in the sand." I loathe it when someone critiques a. Like I have to be careful about what I post online because nowadays with this, the rhetoric politically, I can barely. I'm afraid to post online outside of 5 sets of 2, because if I say anything, for example, I'm for the record, folks. I don't think we should take Canada, and I don't think we should take Greenland, and I don't know why we're even saying these things. We can't even provide. I mean, every so often I'll get someone ask me for money because their child has cancer, and I'm like, wait, you're at. This is where we are in the United States. Our healthcare system is you have to have a GoFundMe when your mom has a disease. Come on. So I'll stop there. But yeah, if I say something like that on Facebook, I'll get destroyed in direct messages. Yeah.
Yeah, I that's a whole nother tunnel, but it's
And not for,
frustrating. But it's frustrating because, like you said, there's this one Amazon review, and it's fine. People are entitled to their opinions, and we're also entitled to not read their opinion too. But it's kind of like it's just given a platform for a lot of people to say stupid stuff, if you ask me, and like out loud, as if
yeah,
as
yeah.
it, they're not good enough to be frustrated. Is what I'll say about that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But yes, you're right. Like Merlin's not an idiot. Like Merlin is so close to my heart. Any book I read, I'm trying to find, is this like a Merlin character? I have all these parallels in my head.
The nice thing is that, if you read your Carl Jung, you'll find as you read it, you'll be like, wait a sec, did Carl Jung sit down with, T.H. White, the author of Dune and the author of The Hobbit and the author of Harry Potter? Because all these books all move in that same. It's interesting because J.K. Rowling said, yeah, she pulled Dumbledore right out of Merlin.
Oh, yes, that I see for sure. That I see for sure. Have you ever read the first Law series by Joe Abercrombie by any chance? No, okay, because there's a character in there, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I see Merlin. I was just like, I have to ask Dan John if he's seen it, and I'm like, I'm almost ready to hunt down the author to just actually ask because I can't stop seeing Merlin in it. But anyway,
how did I end up with this artwork? Is I sought out the artist.
Yeah, I'm pretty big on stalking people down, as you know. So
well, it's like I'd love to have had him. T.H. White died when I was 8, I guess it was, I think, and I'd love to have had a 20-minute conversation with him.
I'm sure. Oh my gosh.
I've read the biographies and I've read a few of his edited stuff, and I just find him fascinating. But let's try. I only have a few more minutes, so let's try.
No problem.
And I apologize. Like I've been telling you, I'm weirdly busy.
It's all good. It's all good. I know you are. I always appreciate that you make any time for me. So I love this. And one of the things I did write down because it's, the Morgan Le Fay and the Griffin section and everything, but it was from your notes because I thought maybe this tied in a little with like how it's the new year and all that, is where you were talking about, the goal is the goal and the mission is to keep the mission and, that kind of thematic, because I feel like people are in that goal setting mode anyway right now. And I guess that's coming from, and you can definitely correct me, but where they're talking about giving the directive of like, we're about to go and storm the castle might be the wrong word, but it's this like place of food castle or something. It's like this like horror house, really.
I think in the version we both have is that she's absolutely disgusting.
Yes, like Jabba the Hutt kind of came to my mind.
Yeah. I got to. the problem is, in the three, this would be the one story that has, there's three different, I think I pointed out in my, in the project, but there's three different versions on this story.
Yes, yes.
And in the one and I don't like it. The Sword and the Stone from the 1956, 57, 58, the Once and Future King, it's got the ants in there and it's got the geese. It's
Mm-hmm.
and they also softened this way too much. Basically, it just comes down that there's a big mean animal, but the scythings and all those other anthropolongi or something like
Yeah,
that.
Arthropoda, yeah, and the
They are
cyopods and
the cypods. They are disgusting creatures,
yes.
and they slaughter them in the 1938 version, and she is a disgusting mess,
Yes.
and that whole scene is uncomfortable, and it's
Yeah, the
just
imagery is like I can almost smell it, you know.
that's and so for the American edition, they told the British publishers, you got to soften that because Americans can't handle that. And I thought, if you think about it, this is 19, and don't forget, at the same time this is happening, the American generals are very concerned that this generation, the one we call the greatest generation, is too soft to fight Hitler and the German armies. But isn't that interesting? We can't read anything that's like the 1930s is a very strange time, and I think it continues to impact this. This is when the Hays Code comes into movies. You can't, oh my God, you can see there's a hint of a breast in this.
Yes, I was gonna go there as well. Like, really?
Um,
The
yeah,
things we censor here in America compared to
yeah,
like what the importance
yeah.
of.
And I mean, it wasn't until I just found out something fascinating. Do you know who Jane Birkin is? You ever heard of a
No.
Birkin bag? She just died a few months. A Birkin bag,
Oh yeah.
named after her.
Oh, okay, yes.
She was in lots and lots of movies, including the Peter Ustinov Death on the Nile. She's
Okay.
she's this
Yes.
very famous French actress and singer. Her
Yes.
version of Harvest Moon, I think, is better than Neil Young's. But she's also famous because she's the first woman ever to show her pubic hair in an American movie.
Oh, okay.
And so, which is funny because that's not only in my lifetime, you don't even notice it. But at the same time that movie's coming out, Green Berets with John Wayne comes out, where they're literally slaughtering human after human after human in
Right.
the while parents are watching that movie with their sons in that war. That's okay, but by
Right.
God, boob, oh,
I know. Yeah, the nudity thing here in the U.S. with, like you said, the extreme violence that we're allowed to watch and be exposed to is fine. And because my husband Oscar also said, "Oh yeah, our parents took us to see RoboCop, but we would never be able to see, like if there was a sex scene, like oh no, don't look." But like the
exactly.
gore of like something like
Yeah,
RoboCop was just like nightmares for kids.
yeah. It's the guns in America. I mean, when I'm in Europe, the thing is like everybody has guns. Well,
I know
no,
everyone asks me this too, and I was like,
yeah. Whenever you travel, no.
yeah.
But guns are fine. Guns and when that one person a couple of years ago said, "Well, to stop, we need to arm the teachers." They're like,
Oh
I
my
tell you,
gosh.
if I'd have been armed as a teacher, I'm the problem. Okay, Billy, you shut up. Or keep talking.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
I mean, it was
God.
bad enough when they gave the nuns the rulers, yeah, and the ping pong paddles. I mean, they did away with that, but now suddenly they're going to
Ah,
arm them. Yeah. Mm.
oh, yeah, that's overstated. Well, let's real quick. I can give you a few more minutes. Okay, I give you a few more minutes. Okay.
It's
Good.
okay if you have to wrap up. It's totally fine. I feel more like I just like to kind of hear your take on because even though I have all these extensive, amazing notes, it's more just like kind of picking your brain on it because, like you said, it's where we're at in the book right now is this, kind of crazy scene, which does play into everything we just talked about. But I think for me, I was let's see, I highlighted a couple of things here, but essentially it was obviously we talk about education again, and we talk about like listening and learning because they're talking about like going in and what the directives are. And then I actually highlighted, yes, trees can talk. And I don't know why, but I think I liked it because you just pointed it out, like because the oak tree later on is there. And then
If you have a good version of the book,
mhm,
later in the book, the trees have conversations.
mhm.
And there's it's actually fascinating because for a long, long time, people thought that trees competed for sunlight. But now the new theory is that trees actually help each other with sunlight. They're much more cooperative than people thought.
Oh, okay.
And the upside of having pine trees and evergreens in an area is that they kill the undergrowth, which allows the trees that are near them not to have to fight. So it's much more communal is the thought now. In the
Mm,
same way that, the symbiotic relationships between sea anemones and like the California clownfish,
mm.
they're in a relationship.
Okay.
Sharks with those things
The
that
little, yeah, are they
that
pilot fish or something? What are they called? I don't
yeah,
know.
and the ones that go in the mouth and clean off the
Yeah,
parasites.
they're basically like little dentists for the
Yeah,
sharks. Well, you also wrote during your notes in this part where it's basically like the boys go off with Marion and all this stuff, but you talked about your book 40 Years with a Whistle and how your coaches and your good mentors always said, what's important is that you know the situation and that you have the directive. And I think as these boys go into the mission, it's a little bit of the same. Like they're now on their own, and we don't know how old they're young essentially, but it's like how they need to kind of
uh,
have
14.
the lessons. Yeah,
Yeah,
they have to have their lessons, and so I feel like this just kind of ties into everything we actually talked about today, which is because you wrote in here about how you discuss your life as a coach and the lessons that you learn from your mentors, and then this is very much like, okay, these boys are now having to learn their lessons from their Robin Woods and even Marion, which I love that she schools them and, hoots like an
yeah.
owl. And they were at first kind of angry about being in her grouping, but then she was like so stealth and they realized, wow, we're really lucky to be in her group and all that. But yeah, if you want to tie in just like that, again, like an athlete needs to know their stuff because the same way like these boys, it seems like Robin's like, you need to know your method, right? I guess that's my takeaway.
It's something I try to let when I coached high school, every senior, I try to remind them as much as I could. We got 3 games left in the season. When you get on the field before the game, stop, look in the stands, look at mom and dad, look at your family, look at all your friends. No one in your life is ever going to come. No one come when you're an accountant. Your mom and dad don't come to the office to watch you fill out forms. When you're working, maybe when you're working at some McDonald's or Arby's, you're the French fry kid. Mom and dad come by to watch you fry fries. That said no one ever. Uh, this is a unique thing. Enjoy the moment. And I used to always tell them, and it's going to be over like this. A year from now, I'm going to be back here coaching on this same field. And you might even be in the stands wishing and hoping
Hoping.
that you were back out here for another season and it's going to be over. And it's funny because not one athlete I ever had ever took advantage of that. I mean, they might have, but I had many athletes tell me later, I wish I'd have spent more time in the moment. And that's the job of a coach is to get you out there. But remember this. That's why I hate coaches that make themselves the center of attention. I'm thinking about that American Olympic gymnast coach that always liked to be in the screen. He had the
Oh,
mustache. I hated him.
Is
There's
that
some
Bella Caroli or the
there you
Carolis?
go.
Yeah.
Another one I don't like is Coach Prime. I don't like Deion Sanders because I always feel like they're always coach first. They're always in the interview. They're always, when you're having a documentary about you and it's about it, you are out there in front of your athletes, and it's hard not to. That's why when I go to track meets, I tend to wear, I wear more like church clothes than I don't show up in athletic gear because nobody wants to see me throw. Okay. So
Well, that's not true. I think everyone wants to see you throw, but I know what you mean.
the thing about what you're seeing in the scene is that they're sending them in. They can die. There's a chance. I don't know how good of a chance, but they're going against horrible creatures that want to kill them, and they're going to slaughter them before they get a chance. And here we go. And I've always thought that was now this is going to, I can tell you about 30 teachers I know would be like, you shouldn't tell them to hurt little creatures who shoot poisonous arrows. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. Thanks. I used to work with a teacher who lost her brother in Vietnam. Oh. And we would listen to these teachers go, it's all about the children. Everyone just needs hugs. And she goes, because we had that shared experience of family and mom. And she goes, and I hear that. And it's like, yeah. And then a year after they graduate, we're going to send them into war. Oh, here, let's just hug each other. Let's just talk. Right. Actually, the soldiers honestly could talk it out and just say, hey, we're all good. We don't care. You don't care. Let's all go home and eat dinner, Hey, I got to bounce, but
of course.
This
I
was
appreciate you.
One, but I enjoyed this. Okay.
Oh, I always enjoy the conversations, and actually, they're never strange. It's very much how my podcast is. So I will let you run. Thank you so much, everybody. Dan John. I will link everything and all the stuff that we always talk about. But until next time. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram or Facebook.